I'm Amy,
And I'm Dawna.
and this is Did You Fear About This One? The podcast where we're two girls with one story about spooky weird shit.
Yes.
And disclaimer, we're not experts. We're just nerds.
Nerds. So, Amy, did you fear about this one? You're a world traveler inspired by a beautiful castle, and you end up writing one of the most influential books of all time.
Dude.
Yes. So, today we're discussing Bram Stoker's Irish upbringings, the castle that inspired Dracula, and then the castle's mythological stories, including the Hollywood courtroom battles.
Ooh.
Yes.
Salacious.
So, first of all, let's cut right to the chase. Bram Stoker, he was born in Ireland, and he actually never been to Romania.
So, why did he pick Romania?
That is where it really happens. So, Bram Stoker, as I mentioned, he was born in Ireland, and eventually, over time, he became a world traveler. He started working, doing his own thing, got married, had kid, and then he ends up moving to London, where he gets linked in with the Lyceum Theatre, where he meets Henry Irving, who, as we all know, is a very famous actor of his time.
Is he? What was he in?
Why would you ask me that?
I don't
Of his
know.
of his time. I don't know. Like the guy was dead before I was born.
I don't know. You just say Irving, and I think Irving Washington, and then how much I hated Sleepy Hollow as a book.
Great book, by the way. That's one that I actually read.
Ichabod Crane is an annoying piece of shit, but that's for another story.
More on that in October, guys. Um, no, actually, I really don't know any stories of Henry Irving. Like I said, the guy was dead before I was born, so he was very well known at the time. Like when you look it up, like he was actually knighted. Like this guy was a very influential person in the day and age. So he actually is Sir Henry Irving.
Ooh,
But so anyway, Bram became like his personal assistant and then the manager of the Lyceum Theatre in London. So he
nice.
did this for like 27 years, like pretty well career. But anyway, so during his time with Henry Irving, he started becoming a world traveler. So they did a lot in, see here, where did they not go? They did not go in Eastern Europe or Romania. That has been confirmed.
That
Um,
is part of Eastern Europe, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah. But just so that we're clear, it's not Romania.
yeah, never been to Romania for sure. 100% never been to. Gosh, geography is not my strong suit today. And I swear I actually love geography, but not my strong suit today. It's too early.
It's fine.
But anyway, once again, never been to Romania.
Hmm.
That has been documented. Just a lot of places, just not Romania. So anyway, he used to vacation a lot at the New Slains Castle over in Scotland.
That's a cool name. Is
Yeah, I
it
know.
spelled like Slain?
Yes. However, it was known as Slains Castle. Um, we're going to talk more about the castle here in just a little bit because it's a pretty unique castle.
Nice.
So I did take some notes because some of these, dates, times, locations, I want to be specific as possible. I'm also a type A personality. I like to be in control of everything, so I don't want to sound too much like an idiot. I do that on a regular basis. So if I'm
See, she's super like organized with her notes. I dump a bunch of stuff into a file and then riff off of it and try to remember to look up specific dates and things in there.
see, I know a lot, but then it's like I don't want to be wrong about a lot. So anyway, disclaimer, you're probably gonna see me look at my note cards on a regular basis just because I want to be as precise as possible. So he began to write Dracula in 1895. See, that's if it weren't for the notes, I would have butchered that. So 1895. While he was staying at the Kilmarnock Arms Hotel, I probably butchered that name too. Um, there was the Slains Castle, as I mentioned earlier. So that's where he was inspired. He just saw this castle. He's like, wow, this place is really cool. And so before, like I said, we're going to talk about the castle a little bit more later on. But if you actually read Dracula,
Hmm.
a lot of the references in that book is directly correlated with the Slains Castle,
That's awesome.
specifically the octagonal hall in Dracula.
Ooh,
It is description for description with Slane's Castle.
I love that.
And by the way, Slane's Castle is a tourist attraction. It's over in Cruden Bay. Or Cruden. Is it Cruden or Cruden? Cruden. Anybody, please put in the comments if I'm saying it right. I think it's Cruden. But anyway, like I said, it's over in Scotland. And once again, it's specific to Dracula. So we know for a fact this Slane's Castle is Dracula's castle. Once again, never been to Romania. So let's talk about the castle. Because there's a lot of really cool stuff about the castle. This is where I got down the rabbit hole. So, Slane's Castle, it was built in the 16th century in 1597 by 9th Earl of Errol. Lastly, reconstructed in 1837.
Did it get like burned down or something?
Yes. Of course. And
Yeah.
do you know why?
Can I blame it on the English or the Romans?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, 100% on the English. So
I was like, who are our normal scapegoats in these tales most often?
So Francis Hay, or Hay, the ninth Earl, he actually conspired with the Spanish king to unseat Queen Elizabeth.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess that didn't work out for him.
Nope. Not
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
That was a big mistake. You big oopsie daisies. Like, my bad. I didn't mean to like try to unseat you. Or
I
anything.
fucked up. Sorry.
Yeah. So he was declared a traitor.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. You just can't unseat queens. That's just not a good idea. So anyway, he was declared a traitor in 1594. And in October, that is when Old Slane's Castle was to be deconstructed. It was ordered by King James VIII.
And when was it rebuilt?
So they started rebuilding it. Kept doing that for a little while. It's continuously been reconstructed up until 1837.
So it got dismantled in the 1500s, and then it took them 300 years to rebuild this bitch.
Well, they kept re-adding.
It became like a Winchester's house.
Yeah.
Castle.
Best way to describe it. So
Okay.
So they would just kind of like piecemeal it together. They would add like different like hallways. They would add different like courtyards.
That sounds like me decorating. Like if I had unlimited budget and land, I would just be like, "Hey, look I now have a secret library. Now I have an entire whole extra house in secret passages." My bad.
But so that Francis Hay guy, I think I can't even read my handwriting now. Right? It's Hay. So he actually died in the castle July 16th of 1631. So there's your first death. So anyway, the family held on to the castle for many, many years. Just eventually handed down after generation after generation after generation. The family that owned the property fell on a hard time. So in 1919, they sold their castle. And so this guy came and he purchased it. His name is Sir John Ellerman.
Okay.
So he purchased it. He was going to use it as like a business venture for a little while. And he too was just like, you know what? This place, I can't afford to keep it up.
Yeah. It
So-
sounds big.
Yeah, it was pretty massive. So do you know what he does to avoid paying taxes on it?
Tax fraud?
Not quite. So to avoid paying taxes on this property, with Scottish law, I guess. Like I'm not a Scottish lawyer or anything like that.
Really?
I know, surprise, color me shocked. He actually just removed the roof.
Oh.
So yes, the castle looks like it's like all fallen apart in ruins at this point. Now, 1925, 1926, the dude just removed the roof and just let it go decayed. That's how we avoid paying taxes on the building, because now it's considered a ruin.
So it's still ruins?
Mhm.
That's fucking stupid.
Yeah, so
I mean, I don't want to pay the bill, but like, rude.
yeah, so he just took the roof off and just let it go, and now it's just a big old tourist destination. Even today, most recently, people are still randomly dying at this hotel, though. Well, I'm sorry, not a hotel, castle. So we had 2013, there was a young man of 15 years of age. He fell to his death from a cliff.
Oh.
Yeah, made world news, poor kid. Don't know the specifics. We're not sure if it was like a selfie-involved accident. Got to the cliff and unfortunately fell and succumbed.
Yikes.
Succumbed.
You had it right the first time.
It's too early for this. I
It
can't.
is noon 30, everybody.
It's still too early for this.
We already done had breakfast and coffee.
And so here's another crazy one. This one, there's to this day, there's still no explanation as to what happened. But in 2017, so we're almost 8 years, they randomly found a 54-year-old woman unconscious at this castle.
Just chilling there.
Yeah, just totally unconscious.
Was she on like a tour or just
No idea.
does
They
she
just
have any fucking reason?
no.
Does she just like not wake up there
Yeah, they came. The tours started happening the next morning, and they found this random person just unconscious, and she eventually passed away.
without waking up to tell anybody?
Correct. So we have, even to this day, like 8 years later, no answers as to what happened to this 54-year-old woman.
Do they know who her family is or who she is?
I haven't read anything following up on that. So I think it was just like sweep it under the, you know, no idea. We'll just, yeah, we'll just let it go.
R.I.P. lady.
Yeah. Really tragic. I mean, both gone way
Yeah.
too early.
Yeah.
So possibly that castle may have some hauntings, but we're not certain about that. There's been some like people saying that there's like, figures in white walking around, just like any other, reported, haunted attraction.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, back to Bram Stoker and
Henry Irving.
I am butchering this episode, aren't
That's okay.
I?
That's why there's two of us. So we have a bonus brain.
Thank God. So anyway, Stoker visited the Whitby, or is it Whitby? Whitley, whatever. He visited them back in, I don't remember where, but it was in North Yorkshire, England in 1890, which also is influenced in Dracula.
Okay.
So when Dracula comes to shore, it's in the same place in Whitby. So there's a lot
Which is
not in Romania.
True. I feel like this is going to become a not an accordion type of joke.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to put a pause on that. Two things. So you said it was in Yorkshire and then Yippee? You mentioned Yorkshire.
Yeah,
there?
so Whitby is a seaside town in North Yorkshire, England.
Okay. So I'm actually listening to a completely different book. I will look up the audiobooks so that I can give a recommendation because it's actually awesome. But while we were driving back from a Walmart trip before we started recording, they had mentioned like going to Yorkshire and being like, oh yeah, this is where Dracula took place. And I'm like, the fuck kind of coincidence is that?
That is very much a coincidence for what.
The book that I'm reading is by an author named Ali Theron, and it's called Proper Scoundrels. It's like a spin-off series of another series. Highly recommend. I'll put links in the descriptions. But to explain the not an accordion thing.
Yes, share the tale.
So a couple of years ago, we went on a girls' trip, just the two of us, to New Orleans, which was super cool. And we were sitting in the Phoenix airport, and this will tell you our personalities so fucking well. Dawna is sitting there, and this was when she was in a relationship with a fuckboy. We'll just put that out there. He was not worth it. But like she was big in the like, ooh, this one's pretty, this person's pretty phase. And we're sitting in our seats like waiting to get lined up to go on the plane. And she's telling me about dudes. I don't know if they were actors, random people. I can't remember, but you were talking about pretty boys.
This is about artists, musical artists.
Yeah. And
there's a lot of really attractive rock singers, just saying.
That's true. That's true. And I also get like pretty people dumb sometimes. And I have the bonus part of being bisexual, so then it's really a problem where I'm just like, I can't go in public sometimes because there's too many pretty people.
Crazy Ralph said, "You're all doomed."
So anyway, we're sitting there and my dumbass, I'm people watching because this is what I do. And one of the groups that was getting on the plane with us, some musicians, but one of them had like this yay big, so like imagine a cereal box kind of length, but triangular shaped instrument case of some kind.
It was a really weird case. Like it was just think of like one of those like Dungeon and Dragon die.
Yeah.
It was just like this case that was black, very, very oddly shaped.
And
And
like leather with a latch, like it was obviously some kind of like instrument case or something.
mhm.
And I was like, what's the fuck's in that case? And she's just like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, that case. And she's like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, I wonder if it's an accordion. So I hop on my phone and I'm scrolling through looking on Google. She is continuing to tell me about pretty artists. Mid fucking sentence or after she says something completely random, I go, it's not an accordion. Like, this is 5 minutes later.
Mhm.
I just pop up with, it's not an accordion. And you're just like, did you hear any of what we were just saying?
And I'm pretty sure my response is, what the fuck?
And then I had to like remind her of why my brain went there. And yeah, it wasn't an accordion. Still don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Anybody in the comments, let us know if you know what the fuck would come in that kind of a case. I'm still interested, but
Yeah. I mean, it was a very peculiar type of case. Like I can't even really describe it except for like almost like a Dungeon and Dragon die.
yeah,
You know, with like the million
yeah,
facets.
yeah. But yeah, long triangular case. So yeah, it's not an accordion has become an in joke, and not in Romania will be a new one.
Yes. And now that you guys are all in on our in joke, you know, make sure you're throwing that in everyday conversations. Well,
Yeah.
not an accordion.
Yeah,
Or not in Romania.
yeah. If you want to help us grow, leave 5 stars anywhere, like and all that. But if you don't feel like writing a comment, just write not in Romania or it's not an accordion.
We'd love you either way for it.
Yeah, fuck it.
But back to the tale.
Yes.
So, all right, now you're probably wondering, okay, so Bram Stoker never been to Romania. He's been to Ireland, obviously, because that's where he's from. He's been to England. How does he write about a Romanian folklore?
Does he know someone from there?
Yes.
I'm smart.
Ish. So in his travels, and of all places, London,
Mm-hmm.
he meets this other super freaking cool dude. Like I'm gonna have to do a different podcast on this guy. Like I started diving into this guy. Fucking awesome. Like modern day. If we take modern day Josh Gates, which I fucking love Josh Gates because he's like a true Indiana Jones.
Who the fuck is Josh Gates?
Dead to me.
Okay, so you're gonna have to do a two-part of that episode where you tell me who the fuck Josh Gates is, and then also about this dude that you're about to mention.
All right, quick synopsis of who Josh Gates is. So Josh Gates is modern day true Indiana Jones. He's got a degree in archaeological studies, and he just like a TV show called Expedition Unknown, where he's, you know, uncovering essentially what we're doing. Discovers like
Nice.
secrets and folklore and things like that.
But
he
actually getting to go to the places.
yeah, he gets the cool job. So he does a lot of traveling. He's very funny. I fucking love Josh Gates. So I follow him. I've been following him. And when I was pregnant, I was so ingrained in Expedition Unknown that like I would literally just be like
That's awesome.
watching this show. There was one episode, Vikings in Massachusetts, I think was the episode. And so he's on a boat, and the captain of the ship goes, "Do you see that rock over there?" Because I was so focused in this episode, it's like, I do. Well, that question was directed to Josh, not me. But anyway, so
No,
this
it looks
dude-
like Mr. Rogers. You could count. You could call out. Can
oh,
participate.
I did. I participate all the time. But anyway, so back to what I was getting at is like this dude that Bram met with Henry he was a world traveler, very sophisticated, very well educated, a fast learner with everything he had done. So I'm totally gonna butcher his name, so I apologize. We don't even actually know what his true name was.
I love those kinds of people.
Because if you Wikipedia this guy, there's different names that pop up for him. But it's the same dude. So depending on what version of the story you hear about this guy, will change the name. So we're going to go with the one that I could probably pronounce, and that is Herman Wamberger.
Can I see how it's written?
Yeah, top center line. Herman with a double N.
Wanberger. Or Von Burger.
Yeah, and but then there's like this other like Armin Vombury. V-A with like a little.
Oh, those aren't even umlauts. They're like the little weird apostrophe. I don't know how to do that shit.
Exactly. That's why I said depending on who you're talking to, what version of the story you're hearing, it's gonna be a different name. Some names I'm not even gonna try pronouncing. So anyway, they met this gentleman in London.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I mentioned earlier, he was a world traveler, very sophisticated, very well educated. The dude knew at least 12 different languages by the age of 8.
That's so cool. Europe, you guys have got that shit still. Like, I remember, and I don't know if you still have it, but 20 years ago when we were in high school, like, we had an exchange student that, like, by, like, the equivalent of 5th grade, like, knew 5 languages because that's what they had to do in school.
And I actually got that backwards. So by the age of 12, he was speaking 8 different languages fluently, not just like, piecemealing, fluently by the age of 12, spoke over 8 different languages.
I'm jealous.
I know. So anyway, so I was getting a little more involved, like who this guy is. Let's just say that this guy was so well known that King Edward VII appointed him as an honorary commander of the Royal Victorian Order. The dude was knighted.
Nice.
Yeah. So this guy, he knew a thing or two. But anyway,
And that was back before we just knighted random celebrities for being
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah.
I think.
Just before. I mean, like this guy, like I said, he is a very well educated world traveler. So he didn't really provide a lot of like substance into, like educational and things like that. But yeah, knighted. Good
Nice.
for him,
Yeah.
So it's
Props.
pretty impressive. But anyway, so they were just sitting out in a pub, and I don't really have much detail as to actually how they met or how the conversation went down. But the guy was just sharing a story about what he had learned in Romania, and he was talking about Vlad the Impaler.
Vlad the Impaler?
Impaler, whatever. Nonetheless, it's all the same guy. Still slaughtered
I'm
people.
gonna impale somebody. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Just know that she'll roast me too. It's totally fine.
Speaking is not my strong suit. I can write and spell well.
Yay.
Anyway, so they're just hanging out. The guy just shares stories. But here's where the conversation is up for debate. Like, did he actually truly share these stories, or how else did Bram finally figure this out? Because some of the documents don't actually have any notes of the vicious Dracula.
Wait, what notes? What do you mean? Sorry.
Well, of course, he took some notes during his travels. He started getting this idea of like how to write this book, like, just like any author usually does, is they'll take notes because they want to be like specific, to add more credibility to the story.
Okay. I'm still mentally in this conversation in the bar with him meeting this dude.
Mhm.
And then I got stuck on impale people, and I don't know how we got to notes. I'm sorry.
Rewind. So Bram kept a notebook
Mm-hmm.
of, things about his story.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he heard about something cool or was inspired by something, he would jot it down in his notebook.
Right.
And that's how he kind of put together Dracula.
Okay.
So it's hypothesized that during the conversation that he was having with this gentleman, Herman, or whatever his name is, Armin, depending on what story, he was taking notes. However, there was no true notes of Dracula being the vicious Dracula. There were notes of Vlad, but no notes of references of Dracula.
I'm confused. So, like, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay.
So if you're talking about, like, he has notes about Vlad the Impaler, but there's no, like, character building of his eventual character Dracula?
Yeah, so it's kind of thought that people referred Vlad as being Dracula. But Dracula is a creation from Bram.
Yeah.
Which is why there's no notes of it, but there was no reference to like him being a vicious vampire.
Right.
Is what I guess I needed to say.
Right. So
does that make sense?
Yeah, so he's got notes about Vlad the Impaler and the things that he actually did, which was fucked up, but not him being a blood-sucking, bat-turning person.
Correct, yes. So when I was saying, like, Dracula, I was, like, meaning, like, a vicious vampire.
Got it. Okay.
Sorry,
I'm back in the conversation now.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so he borrowed the name from just scraps of miscellaneous information. So he created this Dracula title for Vlad. Then the book came around. Anyway, so there's a lot of discrepancies between historians. They might say, well, he never met this guy. Like, this is just all imaginary. Some are like, no, he actually met this guy. Like, these are actually facts. Like, this is Vlad. You know, it depends on who you talk to. And did you know that there's actually a woman who's a professor in Dracuology?
That is so cool,
Yeah. I was like, is that really a degree program? Because if so, I want to sign up for that class.
right?
So this woman, Professor Elizabeth Miller,
Mm-hmm.
she's been a professor in Dracuology, if that's even how you want to introduce her, since like 1990.
That's cool.
So she's very well established. Like, she knows a thing or two. Like, she read the notes, she's read the notebook. Regarding that notebook, so they actually found the transcript for this book. Guess where?
Not Romania.
Exactly, not Romania. They found the transcripts for the book for Dracula in some random barn in Pennsylvania.
Huh.
Yeah. So they found the transcript for Dracula in some random barn in Pennsylvania in like 1980s. Do I have the specific dates?
Oh,
Original transcript was found in early 1890s in a random barn in Pennsylvania.
1980s.
Yes, I am so backwards because like this is what happens when you talk about like Victorian era and today's era. But guess who owns that book now?
Stephen King. I don't know.
Ooh, you're actually close-ish. I like throwing little bits of nuggets of trivia. So if you ever want to wow your friends, so the question once again is, who owns the original transcript of Dracula that was found in a random barn in 1980s in Pennsylvania?
I don't know.
That answer is Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen.
Nice.
He purchased this book for like some obscene amount of money. I don't know why people would purchase these things and spend an obscene amount of money, but that's a different story. I think it's cool, but I wouldn't spend like $1 million+ on this book.
Well, and like, I don't know how it's displayed. I don't know if it's in personal collection or not, but like, as a huge fucking book nerd and writer nerd and all of that, like, I feel like it should be preserved and on display somewhere for people to appreciate it. Like,
I have a feeling it's probably in like some like bank vault or something, like highly
which
secured
is,
and protected.
I don't like that.
And that's kind of how I feel like how would you display that?
Under glass with like the same way that you would display like a vintage clothing in a museum, but with like, you know, scans of different pages and like little
Ooh.
excerpts and stuff. Like I can see it in my head.
That
That'll
would be
that'll be next week's episode, visualizing science.
that would be a really cool idea. I like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so here's where the legalities, the court battles, all that fun stuff happens. So Bram Stoker releases Dracula. Got pretty okay reviews. People are like, oh, you know, it's pretty well written. But it wasn't like award winning. It wasn't like very popular. It had some pretty good criticisms, things like that, just like any other book.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, as we all know, it became like a very influential book, especially for horror artists,
Mm-hmm.
horror enthusiasts, or just even just writers in general, because of how well written this book is. The attention to detail. Obviously, I can hype this book all day, but you all know that. You already know how well Dracula is. But now we're getting into the era of movies. There's a lot of drama behind this book now. So, the first movie based on Dracula is Nosferatu, the 1922 version. However, 100% unauthorized.
And people were pissed.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of cheesed off people, and by a lot of cheesed off people, we're talking about Bram Stoker's wife, his widow. She was cheesed off that nobody asked her for permission.
That I would be pissed too.
Yeah.
Also, I love, and this is a complete random aside, but I love that you call it cheesed off. I think you're the first person and only person I've ever heard use that phrase, and it just entertains me every single time.
So so Widow Stoker is absolutely cheesed off of the world. Like, fuck you for taking my husband's work. I didn't give you permission. You're not even paying me for this.
Hmm.
So she wanted all copies destroyed.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. I mean, I would be absolutely head over heels too.
Hmm.
So anyway, she actually takes him to court and she's like, "You need to destroy everything. You didn't ask me for permission. I'm not getting paid for this. Fuck you. Destroy your shit." So this goes on for a while, and I mean a while. So remember, Nosferatu comes out in 1922. She's cheesed off. She stews for almost 3 years until she finally wins.
Nice.
July of 1925, the judge orders in her favor all copies of 1922 Nosferatu is to be destroyed. Good for her.
Okay. So obviously, Nosferatu is available now. Where and when did that happen? Who kept a copy and where was it kept?
So obviously there's people that were doing the editing. So back in the day when you're splicing, you're literally cutting
Mm-hmm.
for editing. Just like, now this is from my understanding. So if you know more than I do, please correct me. I am not opposed to criticism. So just like Phantom of the Opera, there was multiple versions, leftover tapes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really truly get rid of them all.
Yeah.
So they spliced it all together, just like Phantom of the Opera.
I didn't know that Phantom of the Opera was also spliced together.
Yeah. So it's really hard to find the original Phantom of the Opera. They're spliced together.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, to give it a slightly more modern update, it's like trying to find the original Blade Runner when there's like three official versions of
Mm-hmm.
that, depending on whether you want the director's cut, the film release, or the like extended version or something.
Yeah, so they essentially took like the scraps, they pieced it together to create the 1922 Nosferatu, which is still not allowed, but it remains just like Phantom of the Opera. So pretty cool. But so years, decades go by without a true Dracula authorized movie. So the true first authorized movie is Dracula that came out in 1931.
Nice.
All right. And then we have, and I'm so sorry, I'm gonna mispronounce this name. I'm full disclosing it. Uh, Darkray Stoker, Darkray Stoker, the great grandnephew. So he actually wrote Dracula the Undead
Oh,
in 2009.
is that a sequel like book?
It's a little bit more modernized, but it's still supposed to be Dracula. It's kind of like, I guess it is like a sequel if you think about it, just modernized. So I mean, you got the original Dracula from 1931, and then the great grandnephew writes it in 2009. So Dracula the Undead is 2009, authorized, also an authorized Dracula movie. Um, in 2012, as we mentioned earlier, Professor Elizabeth Miller, she presented the lost documents to the Dublin Journal.
Nice.
Yeah. So a lot of courtroom dramas, but as we all know today, we have Dracula to thank. As I mentioned earlier, it's a very well written book, a lot of attention to detail, just poetic as all get out. But no matter what version of the book you get, it's still going to be a beautiful book in our books.
Yeah. Okay, so questions.
Might have answers.
Um as my brain glitches. So
I'm
got
glad I'm not the only one.
I've got two things. Editing Amy, can you tell us about what the fuck happened with the Phantom of the Opera? And if you have any of that info now, that would be cool. But
Like what kind of information?
was it Gaston Leroux's estate that was pissed off? Was it a similar situation? Or why did that get
No,
lost?
just caught fire. The
Oh,
studio caught fire, and unfortunately, the scraps, the edited version, were lost. So they rounded up some troops, and they found some salvageable scraps.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that his estate wasn't pissed.
No, it's actually just unfortunately caught in a fire. It wasn't in a secured vault or anything like that.
Okay. And then, so one of the things that I was thinking about when you were talking about the castle inspiring Bram Stoker, um, do you know anything about the Disneyland castle?
The one in Germany?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So for those of you who don't know, there is a castle. Editing Amy, tell us what it is here. Um, but there's a castle in Germany that looks like the Disneyland castle. It was one that basically, from what I understand, Walt Disney saw and was like, I need that. And I actually did one of those walking tours at Disneyland when I was younger. This one was called A Walk in Walt's Footsteps.
Oh, wow.
So it was literally a tour of the original floor plan of the park. And you got to go like down Main Street where they would like have you stand outside of the building where Walt had his office. And they would tell you stories like, sometimes there's a light on in there and nobody's turned it on. Or like, they would bring like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or something like that up there because he was a big fan of it. And like just the different weird hauntings and stuff. But one of the things that they told us there was when they were trying to like build a miniature version of the Disney castle, they built it to replicate that castle in Germany, and it just wasn't looking right. So it was in like multiple parts, and one day, like, I don't know if somebody knocked it over, if this was a mistake or if it was on purpose, but somehow the top part got turned around and put back on. And that's when Walt went like that, leave it like that. And so that's how you got the Disney castle.
Huh.
It was cool.
Have you seen the edited version with the NC-17 edition?
Of the Disney castle?
Mm-hmm.
Do you mean on the Little Mermaid poster? An original artwork?
No, there's also mockery of the castle that has male appendages.
Oh,
So not just in Ariel's little worlds,
yeah.
but also in Disney World too.
I have not seen that. I'm sort of glad that I have not seen that. I have a feeling that I will be seeing that, but
Disney,
I
you're
don't.
cheeky.
Did they create it though?
Oh, I'm sure there was a cheesed off editor somewhere out there.
Yeah. Anyway,
Sticking it to the boss.
but yeah, I love little tours like that. One of the other things that I learned on that tour, Walt died while they were building the Haunted Mansion right
Mm,
before it opened and things.
yeah.
And it's a popular destination for people to try to like dump loved ones' ashes. So they have to constantly stop the ride.
Hmm.
Um, when I last went to Disneyland, this was actually like maybe a year before the original Pirates of the Caribbean came out. And so right where like Pirates of the Caribbean, the Haunted Mansion is, there it's facing like it's like a lagoon. I can't remember what the hell it's called. Editing Amy, tell us what the fuck it's called. Show a picture. But it's this like area where you've got water and like steamboats and all that kind of shit, and that's where they did this live show every night. It was like a live water show where they would like project cartoons on these walls of water, and it was
That
cool.
sounds really cool.
Yeah, and I had seen it a few times. And so like while my brother and my mom would be watching that, my dad and I would just do laps through Pirates of the Caribbean because it was a ride that people weren't going on a lot before that movie came out.
Hmm.
And so you literally could just like do laps, which was
Nice.
so cool. And then I remember being with my choir group in seventh grade. We got to perform down there in Disneyland. It was schmancy. Um,
So true story. I have never been to Disney.
I know I'm gonna drag you there one of
Land
these
or
days.
world, never been.
Yeah.
I feel like we should do an episode of like all the dirty secrets of Disney.
Oh, absolutely. I have interesting experience.
If you're interested in that, please note it in the
Let us
comments
know.
too.
Um, but so we're there, and so it's basically a bunch of seventh grade, so 11, 12-year-old kids. And we're practically unsupervised feral children.
Oh,
And
just like now.
yeah, except without adult money. Um, and one of the times that my friends and I went on the Haunted Mansion tour, we're hyped up on sugar and 11 or 12. And
What could go wrong?
right? So when you're on that tour, you sit in what they call a doom buggy. So it's
Doom buggy. I
yes.
get it.
So you're sitting like this, where you're right next to each other, and it's like this big, like halfy bowl thing. Editing Amy put a picture here. And when you get into it and then like you go down the track and it kind of turns and faces you towards a mirror and you see a projection of a ghost sitting between you and your co-passenger, which is super cool. And you go through and you get to see all these performing ghosts, and there's this point at the like bottom of the ride where you've got like a little town with a little like band of ghosts playing music. um my jackass friends and I, we started clapping loudly and like hooting and hollering, and like they stopped the ride because there was a disturbance with the ghosts. So, in the late 90s, if you were on that ride and there was a bunch of giggling assholes and you had to have the ride stopped, my bad. Not sorry, but my bad.
Hashtag worth it, right?
Oh, totally.
Now, did you hear about this one, Amy?
Hmm.
In Pirates of the Caribbean, the bones that were on the shore there,
Hmm.
used to be real bones.
Yeah.
They just didn't look right with the plasticky stuff, so they actually bought carcasses.
Yeah. Did you know that like a lot of classroom skeletons are also real
Mhm.
skeletons?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The only way you can get it really anatomically correct.
Let's see what else. Oh, let's show our pretty copies. So we each
Yes.
own Dracula. Neither of us have actually read the full thing, but
Well,
it's so
we
pretty.
read the books, just not these particular ones.
Yeah,
I mean, at least I read it.
it's so pretty.
All 1.5 million pages. Look how thick that is.
Mine has how many pages?
Hugh, if you're watching, leave that joke alone. My book has 609 pages.
Mine has 462. We discovered that mine has a much smaller typeface and
Spacing.
smaller spacing between the lines.
But no matter which copy you get, it's going to be beautifully written.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for touching base. Once again, this was Bram Stoker, Irish Dracula. We covered a little bit about Bram. I keep calling him Bam. It's Bram. His upbringing being from Ireland, his world traveling minus being in Romania, his partnership with Henry Irving, how he met some dude who knows a lot about Romania and his travels. Talked about New Slane's castle, all the craziness that happens over there. We talked about the Hollywood legal battles with the movie rights, all that fun stuff. So if you like what you're seeing, make sure you are subscribing. We are putting out weekly podcasts, and we'd love to have a bigger following, just like any other podcaster, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Once again, I'm Dawna,
I'm Amy.
and this is Did You Fear About This One?
Bye.
What's I going to talk to?
I'm Amy.
I don't know what I'm doing anymore.